Will Bo Horvat be ready to play tonight for the Islanders against the Minnesota Wild? We have the latest injury updates and line combinations, plus what's going on with Anders Lee, and we preview tonight's game against the Wild. All this and more on today's Locked On Islanders podcast.
You're Locked On Islanders, your daily podcast on the New York Islanders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome, everybody, to the Tuesday edition of the Locked On Islanders podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank everyone who makes Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts so you can get new episodes as soon as they drop. You can find us now on Sirius XM on the SXM app. Just do a search for Locked On Islanders. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. We've got a lot to discuss on today's show, but first, if you've got something Islanders related on your mind, if you have a question, a comment, a topic maybe that you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, feel free to email us. LockedOnIslanders@gmail.com is the email address. And if you leave your first name and where you're from, we're happy to mention you on the show when we discuss whatever's on your mind. You could also follow the show on Twitter at Locked On Isles, and you could follow me, Gil Martin, on Twitter at Ice Wars, NYR_VSNYI. We'll keep you up to date on all things Islanders all season long, and I am live tweeting during nearly every Islanders home and road game. So join me for some instant insight and analysis. And it's always great to talk a little Islanders hockey, game time or anytime. Now, don't forget the Islanders play the Wild tonight at 7:30 Eastern time. Big intra-conference game. Well, you can catch every minute of the Islanders hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Just search Islanders. So, the big question, Monday at practice, no Bo Horvat, and that is certainly not good. No Scott Mayfield either, although Lane Lambert indicated that the Mayfield situation was really just a maintenance day, so they were resting him. Now, you may remember Bo Horvat took a shot off the foot in the third period of the game against the Carolina Hurricanes. And he did manage to get back into the game, but he was not 100%. Now, Mayfield missing practice due to maintenance. Lane Lambert said he was day-to-day. Adam Pelech was on the ice for practice after he missed the game on Saturday. So good to see that. Lane Lambert basically quoted as saying, "I thought he was okay. We'll see how he is after practice moving forward." So still not sure if Pelech will be ready to play tonight against the Minnesota Wild, but Bo Horvat not on the ice at all. He, again, blocked a shot midway through the third period. He is considered day-to-day and will be reevaluated today, Tuesday. So what did the Islanders do in practice? Well, they moved Matthew Barzal back to his traditional center position. Anders Lee was to his left, Oliver Wahlstrom to his right. And that would be the lineup, it looks like, if Bo Horvat is not able to go. So you would have Barzy, Lee, and Wally as your top line. And for Oliver Wahlstrom, this would be a golden opportunity if he does indeed get back into the lineup. But obviously, missing Bo Horvat would certainly hurt the Islanders offensively for sure. I mean, you look at the situation and, well, he's got 4 goals, 9 points in 10 games. And, Lane Lambert basically saying the fact that Matthew Barzal is a natural center, that, that helps. He said there's no question that if something happens, Barzal will fit into that position like he did today at practice. The other lines really remaining the same: Nelson, Engvall, Palmieri, Pajot, Holmstrom, and Fashing, Cizikas, Martin, and Clutterbuck. Those were the forward lines. The defense pairings: Dobson and Pelech, Polak and Romanov, and then Bolduc and Aho with, again, Mayfield not on the ice for practice. Sorokin and Varlamov, obviously the goaltenders. And, it'll be interesting to see basically who will get the start in this game. So, Barzal kind of ready. And here's what Oliver Wahlstrom had to say after practice, according to the Hockey News, about possibly playing with Barzal. He said, yeah, he's obviously a really good skater. He creates a lot. You just kind of have to try to read him as best you can and get open. Sometimes he makes that extra cutback. So it's important to put yourself in the best possible spot. He's a world-class player. So we'll see. Wahlstrom also saying, I'm a sharpshooter. Those corners are really small. So obviously I'm going to miss a few because I take those chances. I know I can pick those corners. So that's my game. Again, we hope that we have Adam Pelech available. We hope Scott Mayfield is available, and obviously Bo Horvat. But, that is the injury update, and it is kind of frustrating to see. The depth at center is encouraging, I will have to say. But, again, if you're missing Bo Horvat, that is a big, he's almost a point-a-game guy through the first 10 games. You don't want him missing. And the other thing is this: I think it is detrimental for Matthew Barzal to keep switching and to play games without Bo Horvat. The chemistry they've been developing, at least offensively, has been very strong. And, I think it will slow down that chemistry and the development of Barzal as a winger to have him back at center if it's a long-term thing. A game or two here or there, not going to worry all that much about it. Now, we did get an email, and I wanted to address it. This is from James from upstate New York. He says, hey, Gil, I had a thought, and I wanted your opinion on it. It might be a crazy thought, but when we get into overtime, it's obvious that we're overmatched when it comes to 3-on-3. So do you think it ever gets to the point where Lane Lambert maybe keeps only 3 defensively sound guys on the ice, forget about Horvat, Nelson, and Barzal, and then actually plays for the shootout, trusting that Sorokin and Varlamov can win those one-on-ones? I don't know. It was just a thought, because right now I don't think we can hang with the top teams 3-on-3. Love the podcast, and thanks. Well, James, first of all, thank you very much for the email. I don't think the Islanders will go that route, but I agree with you. Very often, 3-on-3 does not work to the Islanders' advantage. They are 0-3 so far this year in overtime. They only won 1 game last year in either overtime or a shootout. I would like to see the Islanders have at least one go-to guy in shootouts. Franz Nielsen, he was never more than, a 20, 22 goal scorer. But he was so deadly in those breakaways. And I think, the shootouts are not exactly the strength of Sorokin or Varlamov. They're not bad, but they're not at that same elite level. I think, Dobson and Horvat and Nelson and Barzy and maybe Pajot are still going to get a lot of ice time. The issue with the 3-on-3s is it's a situation where there's a lot of space to maneuver. And so speed matters. And clearly that is not the strength of the Islanders game overall, but they need to figure out, they need to work on some 3-on-3 hockey. All right, we have got a lot more to get to on today's show. We'll talk about the captain, Anders Lee, Clearly, he is struggling right now. We'll get into that and why he's struggling and maybe what the Islanders can do about it. We'll talk about that and a lot more still to come on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Score early this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is so easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and a lot more. And look, you got the NFL, college football, you got the NBA, and of course, you can use your knowledge of the NHL and the Islanders on FanDuel. So check out the odds for tonight's game against the Wild. Maybe you want to bet on the odds of Matthew Barzal scoring a goal. Check it all out on the FanDuel app. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. So let's talk a little Anders Lee. I have been getting a lot of comments on YouTube and seen a lot of comments on social media about the captain, Anders Lee. And understandably so, he's earning $7 million a year. That's his cap hit. And through 10 games, Anders Lee has 1 goal and 1 assist. That's 2 points. Now, what that means, Simon Holmstrom, Casey Cizikas, Cal Clutterbuck, JG Pajot all have more points than Anders Lee. He's tied with Matt Martin, but Matt Martin is a +2. Anders Lee is even. So, we remember, and everydayers, I mentioned that Lee struggled down the stretch and in the playoffs last year. And so a lot of people are kind of getting concerned about Anders Lee. And I get it. Believe me, I get it. Because Lee has never been particularly known as a fast player. He is now 33 years old. He always played, the game where he got in front of the net, screened the goalie, took a little and gave a little punishment in front of the goal in order to get positioning there for those deflections, those rebounds. Right now, he doesn't seem to be productive. He seems to be a step behind the play more often than not, and he just doesn't seem to be himself. Now, he's got 23 shots on goal in 10 games, obviously 2.3 shots per game. That's a little bit below where he was last year when he had 214 shots playing in all 82 games. The thing about Anders Lee right now, and everydayers, you've heard me say this, I don't think he belongs on the first line with Bo Horvat. Now, again, if Horvat doesn't go and the first line is indeed Barzal, Lee, and Wahlstrom, maybe that's a combination that works better. But long-term, Bo Horvat's going to be on the top line when he's healthy. And I still think Lee's style and Horvat's style are too similar. And there's just not enough of a situation where those guys are complementing each other and making that line greater than the sum of its parts. But here's the problem. You're not putting Lee on the fourth line with Cizikas, Martin, and Clutterbuck, and you're probably not playing him on the second line because they don't want to break up Brock Nelson, Pierre Engvall, and Kyle Palmieri. We've already seen Lee on the third line for the first 2 or 3 games this season. He didn't seem to really fit in there either. And so you're kind of left with a situation where you're not sure what to do with Anders Lee. And look, clearly we all like Anders Lee, the person. He is very, very good in the community, charitably oriented. He is considered a leader on this team. He wears the captain's C. But at the same time, he needs to be more productive. And we know he slumped down the stretch last year. We know he wasn't very productive offensively in the playoffs. The time has come for Anders Lee to start getting on track. Now, he scored his only goal of the season, October 24th against Colorado in the 7-4 loss. So that means he has gone 5 games without a point and 5 games without a goal. His assist came in the loss to the Devils on October 20th. So, over the last 5 games, no goals, 2 penalty minutes. He's even in plus minus. He has a grand total of 4 hits and 6 block shots. The block shots seem to be his biggest asset. 12 shots on goal in those 5 games. Again, right around his average, but he just doesn't seem to be putting pucks in the net, and he just doesn't seem to be a catalyst for this team. He doesn't seem to be creating offensive chances. We need to see more from the 6'3", 235-pound captain who, look, he was second on the team in goals a year ago behind Brock Nelson. I don't think he's going to be at this low a level of, 2 points in 10 games. That's about a 19 point pace over the course of a season. And that's not acceptable for Lee, especially if he's playing on the first line. Should the Islanders consider sitting Anders Lee out for a game just to send him a message, to send him a wake-up call that they need more from him? I don't think that is a typical Lane Lambert move, but I think it might be a smart move at this point in time, just because I think Lee needs a little bit of a wake-up call, and I think the team needs to know that all players, even the captain, will be held responsible for poor play. So many people, also on social media and on comments on YouTube and on emails, they talk about what they perceive as a lack of accountability on this team sometimes. Well, what better way is there to show accountability is to take a slumping player, especially your captain, and have him sit down for even just one game. Obviously, you wouldn't do it while Bo Horvat is injured, but, getting Anders Lee a little wake-up call, a little message to him, I don't think would necessarily be a bad thing. But again, Horvat's got to be healthy and playing. And obviously, if tonight Anders Lee has, a goal or a couple of helpers, all bets are off and we're happy and hopefully he gets back on track. But we haven't seen that just yet. All right, we have got a lot more to get to on today's show. We'll have our Islanders birthday of the day, sort of a defensive forward who was with the team for most of the 2012-2013 season. Let's see if you can guess who that is. And of course, we will preview tonight's game against the Minnesota Wild. So all that and a lot more still to come on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Sleeper. A new NHL season brings all sorts of possibilities. Bo Horvat could score 50 goals. The Islanders could hoist the Stanley Cup, and you could win big by playing daily fantasy hockey on Sleeper, official daily fantasy app of the Locked On NHL Network. Sleeper is our number one choice for daily fantasy sports, and especially daily fantasy hockey, because with Sleeper, you can win 100 times your cash in daily fantasy contests. All you have to do is pick whether studs like Matthew Barzal, Connor McDavid, or Alexander Ovechkin will record more or less than their Sleeper projections for things like goals, assists, saves, plus, minus, and more in a given game. To win a 100 times bet on Sleeper, you need to correctly predict the outcome of 8 player stats. You heard me, Islander fans. You can win 100 times your money playing daily fantasy hockey with Sleeper. So start paying attention and nail your picks so you could start winning big. Use promo code LOCKEDONNHL and you'll get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. That's code LOCKEDONNHL. See Sleeper's terms of use for details and locational availability. So tonight, Islanders and the Minnesota Wild, 7:30 Eastern time at the UBS Arena. And don't forget that you can catch every moment of this game against the Wild on the Islanders' hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Just search for Islanders. The Minnesota Wild are off to a very disappointing start so far this season. Now, they did just beat the New York Rangers in a shootout 5-4. That happened on Saturday. But before that, they were in a losing streak that was just plain embarrassing. For the season, they are 4-5-2. That gives them 10 points in 11 games. But again, that's 4-7 when you add it up. And, without the loser point. And the big problem for the Wild, much to the surprise of a lot of people, has been their defense. They are right now 8th in the league in goals scored, but next to last, 31st in goals allowed. And Philip Gustafsson, who is their number one goalie, is off to a very disappointing start, but he hasn't gotten a lot of support either. He is 2-3-1 on the year, but listen to these numbers: a 4.89 goals against average and an 871 save percentage. And those numbers are even worse when you consider he had one shutout in those 7 starts. The backup, someone Islander fans are very familiar with, Marc-Andre Fleury. Fleury 2-2-1, a 2.83 goals against and an 892 save percentage. So his numbers have been a little better, but overall still struggling. Matt Zuccarello, former New York Ranger, leads the team with 9 assists and 12 points. Ryan Hartman has 7 goals, followed by Joel Eriksson Ek with 6, and Kirill Kaprizov has 11 points along with Eriksson Ek. So this team is talented, but boy, are they struggling on the defensive side of the ice. You look at the line combinations, top line, Marco Rossi is the center. Kaprizov and Matthew Boldy are the wings. Ryan Hartman centers Marcus Johansson and Matt Zuccarello on the second line. Joel Eriksson Ek is the third line pivot. Marcus Foligno to his left, Pat Maroon to his right. And then Connor Dewar, Brandon Duhaime, and Vinny Lettieri are the fourth line. Defensively, Jonas Brodin and Brock Faber are the top pair. Jacob Middleton and Dakota Mermis are the second pair. And then Damon Hunt and Kalen Addison are the third defensive pair. Philip Gustafsson and Marc-Andre Fleury are the netminders. Mason Shaw and Jared Spurgeon, along with Alex Goligoski, are on IR. Frederick Goudreau is day-to-day. Special teams, here's the rub. Not doing the Wild any favors. They are 22nd in the league on the power play, 14.3% success rate. Their penalty kill is dead last in the NHL. They have only killed off 64.7% of their power plays for the other team. That means if you get 3 power plays in a game, they're giving you 1 goal. This is something the Islanders power play, which has been struggling throughout the season, has to be able to take advantage of. The Islanders now 22nd in the league on the power play. Bo Horvat, who may not play, has half of the Islanders' 4 power play goals. Palmieri and Barzal have the others. But when you're going up against a team struggling this badly on the power play, you need to take advantage. So that's one of our keys to victory. The other one is this. Again, you've got a lot of talented, speedy players on this Wild lineup. Do not get into a skating up and down, wide open kind of a game with the Minnesota Wild. Play more Islanders hockey to slow down the pace a little bit. And then my other piece of advice, shoot the puck early and often, because I think Gustafsson right now and Fleury, but more Gustafsson if he plays, if he gets the start, and check Twitter will let you know who's starting beforehand. But when the confidence is low, man, take shots, take a lot of shots, and make the goalies work for it, because right now they are struggling. All right, time now for our Islanders birthday of the day. And this player was only with the Islanders for one season, but Monday was the 45th birthday of former Islanders center Keith Aucoin. The native of Waltham, Massachusetts, went to Norwich University, made his NHL debut in 05-06, undrafted, with the Carolina Hurricanes, later played for the Capitals, and then joined the Islanders for the 2012-2013 season, played 41 games for the Isles, 6 goals, 12 points, was in 6 playoff games, and had 3 assists in those games for the Isles in 2012-2013. Only played 2 NHL games after that with the St. Louis Blues the following season, and then finished his career up in Switzerland and Germany. Aucoin only played 145 career NHL games, 17 goals, 49 points, 22 penalty minutes, but he had 5 assists in 20 playoff games, including 3 in 6 games, as I mentioned, with the Isles. One of his better games with the Islanders, January 24th, 2013, at the Air Canada Centre in Toronto. Islanders have Evgeny Nabokov in goal, while Ben Scrivens gets the start for the Maple Leafs. And in this game, Keith Aucoin scores the game-winning goal on his only shot. He was playing for 11 minutes and 5 seconds, also picked up 2 penalty minutes. But that game-winning goal, which came early in the third period, assisted by David Olmstrom and Colin McDonald, helped the Islanders beat the Maple Leafs by a score of 7-4. You had an empty netter by Michael Grabner at the end. So again, a very happy 45th birthday to Keith Aucoin. He is our Islanders birthday of the day. I want to thank you again for making Locked On Islanders your first listen every day, everydayers. Tomorrow on the show, we will have our key takeaways from the game against the Wild, our hero and go to the game, and we'll have our weekly farm report. Plus, by the way, I will be at the game tomorrow evening, so if you want to say hello, just get in touch, and it'd be great to say hi to anyone who wants to meet in person during the game. Until then, have a great day, everybody. Stay safe. And of course, let's go Islanders.